The city always remains faithful to the sea, and it is here you will find one of the world's great aquariums. Each Italian city is known for its special quality. Genoa as a great seaport, Milan renowned for industry and high fashion, Florence for leather, Rome for quality men's clothing, Venice, of course, for romance. And little-known Ancona on the Adriatic coast makes some of the world's finest pleasure boats. The city has such a great maritime history that Neptune, Roman god of the sea, finds his rightful place here. And when it comes to fashioning luxury yachts, Ancona boats are sought by wealthy mariners the world over. The sleek, well-made boat, Il Barco Italiano, has made the Mediterranean Italy's private lake since Roman times. Now it has become one of the country's sailing playgrounds as well. Boats here come in virtually all shapes and sizes. Where do all those posh yachts go? The great cruise ships, where do they berth? Some to the glittering Mediterranean resorts, and some to the beaches and ports of Italy's Adriatic coast. From here, the resort beaches may seem quiet and tranquil. But remember, you're in Italy. Things can get just a bit chaotic when extended families and friends come together, unless, of course, you are lucky enough to find some place like this. But the prized destinations of many knowledgeable tourists are the picturesque towns on the coast of Liguria, the so-called Italian Riviera. Riviera is too French a term, so here it's called the Riviera di Levante. Each cliffside resort town is more charming and beautiful than the next. Personal taste and expense determine which paradise will suit you best. And if we cannot actually be here at the moment, we can at least close our eyes, feel the breeze, order a Campari and soda, and try to dream. Glamorous as the Riviera di Levante may be, the landscape can be severe. Still, there have always been hardy souls intent on making a hard-won living from the steep landscape. Almost all of this steeply terraced land is man-made, the result of continuous human toil for the last 1,000 years. The best-known wine of this Ligurian region is the Sciacchetra, and it is especially sweet, like the fruit of such intense labors. The best known and certainly the most fashionable of all Italian resort towns is Portofino. A stroll along the promontorio out to the lighthouse is an hour well spent, especially in the evening when the setting sun over the Bay of Rapallo shines like burnished gold. Some of the finest goldsmiths are in Italy, but in Naples and a few other coastal cities, the jeweler's craft is practiced on what are called the jewels of the sea. Everyone knows that for the finest coral work, you come to Naples. Lots of people come. Tourism is one of the largest industries in Italy. Here, the sea and tourism come together. Here are built many of the world's great cruise ships. Italian ships now sail the various oceans of the world as they ever have. Before there were tourists seeking luxury, there were modest pilgrims driven by faith. There still are, in fact. And one of their revered destinations has been the small city of Loreto, on a high outcrop overlooking the Adriatic Sea. Loreto is a shrine unlike any other in Christendom. It is believed that the Virgin's walled house in Nazareth, the Santa Casa, was carried here from the Holy Land by angels. This is a biblical miracle on Italian soil. The sanctified house of Mary is believed to be behind these magnificently carved walls, which display the skills of some of Italy's finest sculptors. Worshippers have fallen on their knees before this shrine for so many centuries that the marble steps have been worn smooth. Faith leaves a tangible impression. Devotion here runs so deep, it can only be given its truest expression through great art. Nowhere is this more evident than in the sanctuary of the Holy House. Perhaps the finest frescoes of many are those by Luca Signorelli, which adorn this small blue chapel. If angels really did choose to transport the Virgin's shrine to Italy, what better site could any angel possibly have chosen than this one? Italy has grown a beautiful soul and become very wise over the ages. Her wisdom and beauty are prominently revealed in her culture and most especially in her fine arts. Millions of tourists have gone to Florence, Rome, Naples, or Milan to discover works by the great painters of the Renaissance. But the great surprise here is that some of Italy's finest paintings are in churches and palaces well off the beaten path. Here in a small Umbrian church, an orchestral suite by the renowned Solisti di Perugia, beneath a great painting by Luca Signorelli. What more does anyone's spirit need? Tiny Città della Pieve is the town in Umbria where Piero Vannucci, known to the world as Il Perugino, the man from Perugia, was born. In small, unassuming red brick churches, here can be seen some of Il Perugino's finest works. Fano is a modest town in the Marche, of Etruscan origin and not often on the art lover's itinerary. Here one would certainly not expect to find great works of art, and one would be wrong. Here, in fact, are fine paintings of not one, but two maestri. Here, a young Raffaele Sanzio, known to the world now only as Raphael, came under the influence of an old Perugino. The result of their relationship is religious painting of the very highest quality. Their paintings adorn the walls of the church of Santa Maria Nuova. The great Renaissance masters learned their art as all artists did under the apprentice system. When the would-be artist finally produced a piece that satisfied his master, a so-called masterpiece, his training was complete. And so, Giotto learned from Cimabue, Masaccio from Masolino, Fra Angelico from Lorenzo Monaco. This is how the techniques and traditions of the great Italian painters were passed on. Artistic expression is a way of life today, everywhere in Italy, but it is particularly satisfying to discover it adorning modest homes in small, isolated alpine towns like Canale. It's hard to find a place more off the beaten path than tiny Pinzolo, high in the Trentino. Yet, in the church of San Vigilio are hidden surprising Giotto-like frescoes by Simone Baschene. And so, for tourists, a very important Italian word to learn is pinacoteca. It means art museum. And every town has at least one of which it is proud. In Jesi, if you can make your way to the Pinacoteca Civica, you will discover the work of the great Venetian artist Lorenzo Lotto. This superb Santa Lucia altarpiece was almost 9 years in the making. In the Capodimonte Museum, the pride of Naples, art lovers will find the collection especially satisfying. Three of the greatest artists of the Renaissance are represented on its walls: Raphael, Titian, and Caravaggio, whose dark and dramatic masterpiece, The Flagellation of Christ, holds viewers spellbound. For those seeking the finest of fine art in Italy, Urbino in the Marche is an overlooked jewel. This is the birthplace of Raphael, but a city of great artistic prominence long before he was born here. The walls of the town protect the superb Palazzo Ducale, whose first floor houses the National Gallery of the Marche. Here you will find masterpieces by Piero della Francesca, Uccello, and by Raphael himself. Every bit the Renaissance man, Piero della Francesca also spent many years of his life writing treatises on mathematics. You can clearly see his geometrical ideal of human perfection in this painting, The Renaissance City, a synthesis of the human spirit and the clarity of pure reason. If there is any place where the Italian genius has flourished with artistic brilliance, it is, of course, here. From the 13th to the 16th centuries, this is where artistic and intellectual excellence took root, flowered, and ushered in modern Western civilization. For lovers of art and of humanity, Florence is indeed hallowed ground. The town is, in fact, one vast pinacoteca. Each contrada, or neighborhood, is unique and beautiful in its own special way. But taken as a whole, Florence herself is one of the finest artistic creations in all of Italy. The Uffizi Gallery is perhaps the finest art museum in the world. A true Fiorentino would never say perhaps. It is virtually impossible to mention a Renaissance master who is not represented here. Leonardo da Vinci and Michelangelo, yes indeed. Botticelli, Raphael, Titian, Tintoretto, absolutely. And if, after a day in its galleries, you are not too exhausted, the Palazzo Pitti provides still more old masters. Perhaps the most remarkable sight of all is the Church of San Lorenzo. The Medici family